What's going on, everybody? My name is Angel. If you'd like to support this project, there is a link for the Patreon on it in the description below. If you're not, then that's totally fine. Just kindly interact with me in the comments. Let me know what you do and don't like about this video update. So let's get straight into it. I want to talk about some of the technical changes that have happened in the game. These are things that you wouldn't otherwise really be able to see, but I want to go over a few of them. So I upgraded to Unity 2019, and when I did this, the entire project broke. I didn't have colors on the models, the lighting was messed up, the FBX importer wasn't showing any of my animation and events, which really scared me. The rigging looked weird in parts, the cloth physics were all totally changed, so I basically had to redo a lot of elements of the project from the ground up, but we at least got it in and we got everything working as it was before, and even better in some cases, which I'll go over in a second. So there's that. And by the way, I have like 50 things to talk about in this video because, as you guys probably realize, some of you made comments like, when is the next video update coming? I know, I've taken a lot of time away from, giving you a video update, so this one's going to shovel a lot in your face, so just be prepared for it. Let's see here, brand new input system and logic. Okay, so Unity released a brand new input system, which means I could use this and not my PlayStation 4 controller all the time in order to control the first player character, or a controller like this, or a controller like this. Do you see a pattern in the kind of controllers that I like? But yeah, so basically you can use any controller that you want now. The only problem that I'm having with the new input system is that if I'm using this controller and this controller, there's no way to differentiate them in the dual input for UI, because the UI recognizes things based on the controller type, and these are both expo controllers. This would obviously be a PS4 input controller, and this is its own monster. It's called the Sean Wan as far as how Unity recognizes it. So really enough about controllers, but at the end of the day, I still got to figure out how to differentiate these two controllers in the user interface for selecting characters on something like the versus screen, because when I move this button, both of the options go up and down, so I've got to figure out how to solve that. But in any case, there's a brand new input logic, which means I also had to redo the script for how the players move, which is nice because in the old version I was checking for an input every single frame of the game, whereas with this new input system I check for a frame only when the event is sent from the button. So that's a really nice addition that Unity added for their community, which I really appreciate and ultimately like. I just have to have a few more things ironed out. Okay, so change between action types for controls. Okay, so with the new input system, and maybe I'll stay on the screen for just a second longer. With the new input system, you're able to change action types. So I did one for UI and one for characters, but I ultimately stopped using that feature because I was checking when any button was pressed down for a feature I'll talk about in a moment, and for some reason that button wasn't returning released when I switched between control schemes. So it's a bug that I think Unity needs to address, or just more logic I need to add into the UI system so that any button counter can appropriately release the button that the script thinks is down. But wow, okay, it shouldn't sound that complicated, but it just kind of did. All right, so let's just get this started here. Select the character. We have a round one, ready, fight animation thing. We have a new UI system for the health bars. I took away the loop-de-loops. It greatly reduced the complexity of my code, and it gave way for the new feature that you're seeing creeping along the green health bar. That is a special meter, so it'll slowly creep up, but if you are hit, then it'll creep up a little bit faster, and it uses a fraction of the health to determine what moves can and can't be used. So if I try and do this move now, he'll basically not do anything. Ooh, okay. So he was able to do it then, but if I try and do it now, there's nothing that's going to come out. Yeah, so as you can see, nothing comes out until that fills up on the bar, until at least like a third of the bar. But let's talk more about the technical changes before I go too deep into everything else. Animation speeds have been tweaked, which means things look a little bit better. They're still a little clunky and ugly looking, but we're working on it. We're getting closer. And the L2 speed limit lowered. I will talk about that feature in a moment. Need to make all ending animations. So we now have all the ending animations when a player is killed. So they won't be stuck in the scene looking like a ragdoll or anything like that. I fixed the logic for killing somebody with a grab move, which if you're not familiar yet, the grab move is something like that. And before, it didn't kill the character. Now it can kill the character if they're low enough on health. Fix projectile logic. So before, and this is maybe a good... So when they were on the ground before and I would shoot a... Oop, there's our time graphic, which will... Yeah, I was about to mention later on, but yeah, we now have a time graphic to show when the time runs out. Currently nothing happens because I don't want to have to restart the game every time a minute goes by. So I haven't employed the logic, but that would be simple. It's just determining which character has more health. But yeah, you can shoot out a projectile and hit them on the ground with a lot more certainty now. So I fixed the projectile logic in that way, as well as how the projectiles are shot out and hit the character now. So before it worked, but it was a little bit finicky. Now it works perfectly. Okay, so blocking while ducking is still happening. No, it's not. We took that out, and I will talk about that in a moment. Health bar damage meter doesn't always refill after the round restart. That's a little technical glitch that we fixed. Kinselina staying invisible solved. So in the previous video, you some of you might remember that this move, when she was hit in the middle of it, she would stay disappeared. That no longer happens. I fixed the logic around that. And we'll talk a little bit about that move in a moment. When Kinselina is hit doing her new move, she says, okay, so that's solved. There's some instances when the player doesn't stand back up after the ground restarts. We fixed that. Hit animations not playing while reflecting projection animation. Okay, so there was some moments where they would do basically this animation where he's like glowing blue, and they wouldn't play the hit animation while that was happening, and I fixed that. So basically, it was basically two animations that were trying to tell the player what to do at the same time or nearly the same time, and one of them just got the better of the logic, and I went ahead and checked for that deliberately in code, and now it's no longer a problem. Sometimes a move, namely the front flip click, looks okay, so that was a part of the same problem. Sometimes moves would hit and they didn't look like they actually hit, the player wouldn't react. There's a few more of these guys. I'm sorry. This is the boring part of the video, I promise. Color aura appropriately per character. Okay, so this person and this person had different colored auras that weren't appropriate for the character. Now they have an appropriate aura color, so that's good news. For some reason, any button counter was not 0. Oh yeah, and that's when I found out the new input system doesn't really account for a button being held down and then released when you're going between the different control schemes. So it's really just me having to put in more logic in the input control script, or at least the one that Unity composes for you, and checking if any button is released and then performing the logic from there. So I'll just work on that so that I can go back to using the UI versus the player, fighting controls. And just a few more of these. Sort out the get up particle effect. Yeah, so when they're on the ground and they do this, the particle effect actually shows in the right spot, because sometimes they were getting up off the ground and doing it and the particle effect wasn't showing. Do it for her. Yeah. Round out the events for Kinselina's disappearing move. We already talked about that. Seems like the logic for activating the aura overrides some attack reaction animations and such. Okay, so same thing with animations playing at the same time. Reworked the ground logic. Okay, and sometimes the character recovers while the next hit animation is played. New effects. Okay, I apparently wrote that in 4 times. Okay, so rework the ground logic. So now they've got just more things that they can do on the ground, and that's more of like a scripting thing. All the technical things we really shouldn't be able to see, so you kind of get where I'm coming from with that. Okay, so let's restart and talk about the new UI. Get new control screen for character select to work independently for each player, so I already talked about that. Changed the input for new controller before getting the new input system. Oh, this was way back when I was fixing more things with the input system, and then I just got tired of it. I was just like, you know what, let's just use this experimental feature from Unity that they're releasing, because the old stuff is just not working, period. It's just not working. So I went ahead and got the new control scheme. Update control scheme for character select, new input system. We scrapped the old effort. Updated the health bar. It's more simplified now. Obviously, you see it's not like a loop-de-loop thing. It's got more going on in it, but it is less complicated looking, and certainly in the code it's less complicated. New bar lowers when projectiles are used. So you see that my black bar is filled now. So if I shoot a projectile out, it's going to eat a third of what I have, and then, you know, refill over time. Or if I power up, it'll refill faster. So now powering up actually has a genuine purpose as opposed to just being something that I had as a placeholder effect. But you'll see, whoops, wrong controller. I got like controls all over the place, guys. You see that when the guy character, since he has more health, when he throws out a move, it takes a good chunk of his. But when the girl character sends out a move, it takes just as much of the average of her health that's remaining. So when you're lower on health, you're able to, you know, shoot out more projectiles. So that was 2, and then if he were to shoot out 2, she's probably going to die soon. Yeah, he gets just as low, but you see it covers a much greater distance there. Anyways, so that's a neat balancing kind of rubber banding feature that we've got right now. Visually, you can see on the on her bottom bar, it looks like it's filled when it really shouldn't look like it, so I should probably look into that. Haven't really checked for the health to be that low before, but it is what it is for now. Reset timer after the round. Oh yeah, so let me just go ahead and kill her. Boop. Boop. Okay. So we got the KO graphic, we got the round 2, we got ready, and we have the timer and the bars appropriately resetting when a new round starts, and the characters back up to a specific amount of space, and then the round restarts. We have the get ready graphic, the fight graphic, the KO graphic, the time's up graphic, and show options for rematch after the title streak match ends. Okay, so when the match ends, I'll show you guys the new rematch option so I don't have to always restart the whole game project every time there is an end of 3 rounds. But I'll go ahead and remove that now so we can just look at it when it happens. Visually, let me go ahead and kill her real quick, and the fastest way I know to do this is with this new feature, which I'll talk about in a moment. Got the KO going there. Okay, great. Stand up. Round 3. Ready, fight. And kill her again. Do it as fast as possible with this new feature. Woohoo. Okay, great. KO. It looks like you need more training. Okay. And then we have this, rematch or main menu. I'm going to go to the main menu. And we're going to go ahead and select the character again. And you'll see there's a new camera animation. It goes from the floor out, and then it gets you ready for the match there. So there's a new camera animation to signify the beginning of a new set of 3 rounds, which is cool. Of course, you guys by now know that I had to upgrade to the latest version of Unity, so with that came redone cloth physics with Unity 2019's logic system. So although they probably look identical to you, it was a nuisance getting that to work right, but now it's all in, so that's good news. Redone dashing animation. So before I had them hopping, and I realized that it's better if they look like they're kind of like swerving in and out, just kind of still sticking to the ground. You know what I mean? So this is, it's a little bit more smooth than the old dashing animations. Explode projectiles when they hit the ground. So this I can show you with Ken Selina pretty easily. When she shoots a projectile and it hits the floor, it doesn't go through it. It just explodes. Oop, now she doesn't have enough energy. Oh, come on, girl. Explodes on the ground. Cool. So we now have that solved. Apply new camera tracking system with camera helper bone. Okay, so when the character goes up, the screen follows them so that they are not clipping out of the screen anymore. I think Ken Selina can show this pretty well with... Oh, I didn't even... Did I? I didn't even include that logic in her script yet. Okay, so I've got to do it for Ken Selina still. I've done it for her new move, which... Let's go ahead and show that off now. So Ken Selina's new move, you press down and circle, or down and B, whatever controller you're using. I'm sorry, down and X. So it clears a lot of the screen. It's great for evading projectiles. Boom. And then she'll go ahead and kick them. Boom. So she'll glow, disappear just like she does with her other move, and her little sparkles that she makes will linger on in the scene. I have to create a new system for tracking rotation around the characters, because if you're doing it close, you'll end up on the other side of the character, which means I set up a new collider system so that you can actually clear your opponent's head. But with that, the camera tracking just needs to be reworked so that it doesn't wrap around like that, or doesn't like blink out of space, because you'll get really disoriented if people are constantly jumping over each other. So I just gotta, you know, make a new camera system that kind of complements that, and only really rotates when the characters are off axis like that. So yeah, so now we have a camera help a bone that follows them if they were to clip out of the scene, but we still kind of maintain the character being in front of the health bar as opposed to behind it when they jump in front of it. Make or exert particles from cast file. Okay, cool. So the male character now has this feature where when he's powering up, he glows, and then a series of dots exert from his character model and float into the scene in different turbulence and different ways, things like that. So that's cool, I guess. I don't know why I did that. I just decided to. You know, why not? Wither particle when hitting L1. Okay, so when you shoot out a particle, you can press L1 and it'll disappear in the scene. Now take a look at the new black bar that's underlying the health bar, which for the male character just refilled. When you shoot out a particle and press L1, you get that amount back. And it animates up and down. It doesn't just blink. So, of course, that was a little coding effort on its own. But yeah. So, that's in. Let's see here. Get camera shake back. Okay, yeah, so when you're attacking the character, there's a little bit of a camera shake now. Again, there wasn't, like, I took it out before. But you can see the character, the camera does a little shake. The more powerful a move is, so this is a pretty powerful move. Yeah, I see a lot of camera shake for that. Just immerses the player a little bit more. It was in a previous version, but because I had to redo Cinemachine because of 2019's monstrous different nonsense that it was, I had to redo everything that I did with Cinemachine as well, because it finally came out of preview. So, and I'll likely have to do something similar for the input system, because the input system is technically in preview. But, you know, I just needed to use it now, or at least wanted to, because I was so limited with this controller, because Sony decided to make a USB port, micro USB port on the back, which kept on disconnecting the controller for me, and it drove me crazy. I would have to restart Unity in order to get I'd actually have to restart my computer to get it to be recognized again. But now I don't have that issue, and I ordered a controller off Amazon that doesn't disconnect, period. Color me jaded. Okay, so the collider on camera helper instead of root. Okay, so this is what I wanted to talk about with this. So before, when I did this move close, the character would otherwise stay right in front of their opponent and not clear over their head, because the collider was attached to the root object, which always stays at ground zero. So if she were to technically be above them, the collider would still kind of collide because it was always stuck to the ground. Now when she's moving forward, the collider follows her body, so they're able to clear each other's head. So yeah, there's that. Create opposite side camera for grabs, win, etc. Okay, so we have a new grab with her, I guess. I'll show you that one. Boop. At least it shows his face now and not his chest. And then you already saw his camera grab animation, and it works on both sides. I'll select the same character and show you guys that maybe at the end if I can remember. But that's it for visual. With gameplay, this is a big update. Big update for the game. So you already saw the logic with L2. So if you're pressing buttons and you hold down L2, the character will light up green, and it will increase the animation times of those moves. So you can speed things up if you want. And the added bonus is when the moves hit while you're holding down L2, they'll immediately go to the next animation, which really speeds up the combos, or at least the hits that are landed. So, see if I could... I technically already showed you that, guys, that in the beginning when I was trying to kill her and get the rematch things up. But that's L2. With R2, if you're holding down R2, you can power up and then you can start to attack. And you see that he glows red. When he glows red, let me do this. When he glows red, if he were to get hit while he's glowing red, then the time in the game will like freeze while he's hit, and then he'll react by flashing his specific unique color, which in this case happens to be blue, and then he will complete the hit and 9 times out of 10 catch the other person off guard if the move animates in time. So we'll try that again. Oops, I didn't attack with him. So punch, kick. Let's see here. I don't want to... Maybe I'll do circle. So kick. Okay, so this is something that I actually have to fix. So her circle kick, this one, I keep on forgetting which control I'm supposed to use. This one right here, it brings her body back, and my hit detection doesn't care about limbs. It only cares about the body points, and that character's body points don't cross the threshold to hurt her, so she actually is pretty safe with that kick for now. Something I gotta work on. Not a big deal. Let me try square and circle for him. Yeah. So you see, anyways, you can't block those moves either. So if you're holding back, you can block all of these moves. It's no problem. And by the way, I redid the... Oop, you can't block projectiles, but I redid the animations for blocking. But let's say he was actually doing this and you were holding back to block. Well, since it was so soon, she actually did a perfect block, but see how she's like moving back? You can't actually block that, but if you block just in time, you'll do a perfect reaction block, and it will reverse the animation and make it so that the other player is more vulnerable than you are for the next set of moves that come out. So that's R2. L1, when you're attacking, you can just use L1 to get out of a move. Really doesn't do anything more than that. I think that you guys are familiar with that logic. R1 is a new set of logic for the moves, so you can basically feint doing moves. So none of these moves actually come out, and then once you're close enough, you can release it and, you know, attack. But yeah. Yeah. I don't know if I'm going to keep in the R1 logic for feinting. It's a great way to cover space, but in the playtests that I've done, it's been otherwise useless and a great way to get your butt kicked. Unless, of course, I employ some logic where if you were to hit them while they're feinting while using R1, then you do something like, oh, I messed up, or, you know, you get parried in a way. So that's still up in the air. Let me know what you guys think about that. Perfect. Okay, and then this is a section that's got to do with gameplay. Perfect charge attacks can be parried by pressing back at the right time. Okay, so we just talked about that. Reworked character movement dashing. So I talked about the animation, but I also you know, reworked the logic behind doing that because of the new input system. The new input system is called once whenever it's tapped, as opposed to over and over and over 60 times plus per second, depending on how fast I can get this game to run at. Slowly getting slower in frames, so I've definitely got to, you know, look into performance eventually. But yeah, so we have a reworked system for movement, which is really solid. So, you know, if you're pressing back and forward, he's not going to do any dashing, but if you press back in the right direction, then he'll be dashing. Dashing into you know, sidewalking, dashing into this, like the reset state component, you know, dashing into attacks and then into powering up and into walking and into rolling. All those things have been worked very precisely into the code where they're unbreakable and super smooth looking now, at least at the standard that I had in my previous video, so that's all good news. Replace all low hits with mid-high variants. I kind of lied to myself with this one. So I gave a couple of new moves, and I think you just saw the one with Kai and Saku. It's this one right here. He still has a... Oh, that's a brand new move. Okay, so this is a brand new move. Down in triangle. Whoop, boom. Boom. That's a brand new move for us. This one is familiar from the other videos. This move... It's so crappy. It's basically him doing an axe kick, but pushing his leg down with his hand for extra force. I don't know how much I like it. I definitely got to tweak it a little. And some I mentioned this earlier, but you guys were like complaining about how some of the animations look like crap. I definitely got to rework some of these, and that's a brand new one. But I really didn't take a close look at everything. So I'll sharpen that one up and make it look not as crappy. But yeah, that's a new one. And then finally I have this one, which literally does nothing, but it's kind of like a fencing parry. So if you're going to punch him while that happens, your hand gets parried out of the way. I want it to play a little bit faster, and be less ridiculous looking. It's very like traditional, like Chinese feng shui, you know, I don't even Tai Chi. But he's not really that type of character, so I gotta work on that. But those are all his new moves. With Ken Selina, again, this is the part where I just kind of like lied to myself. I of course did this new move, and I was like, okay, great. And then I was like, oh, I've already got a down move for that, and I was going through the rest of them. I was like, why don't I just continue to use her down move that she already has, because that was a pretty popular choice with the playtests. And then of course that one, which I decided to keep, even though it technically looks like a low move, it actually hits mid, and it crushes high moves, so it's a good evasive move. She's a very evasive character. You can see, as opposed to Kain Saku's moves, his moves all come out pretty fast, and what you would otherwise expect in a fighter. Whereas Ken Selina, her moves will come out slow, but so evasive in the process leading up to the hit. So that'll complement different player types probably. Yeah. So the reason why I did that was because ducking is no longer a thing. When you press down, they just walk down. When you press down and back, which what used to be duck, you roll back. If you press down and forward, he rolls forward, So there's no more ducking in the game. I took it out entirely, which I was so torn by. But in a real fight, nobody ever ducks. People might do like a guard as they come in, like a Steve Fox kind of guard, like a boxing guard, but nobody really ducks during a fight, ever. But every fighting game to this day has a duck in it, and it's because of the rock paper scissors of fighting games. Oh, is it going to do high, mid, or low? Oh, I'm sorry, high, mid, or low, or grab, So I think I've got enough things to worry about with this game, with all the variants that you can do with the controls and how they light up and stuff, and the effects of those things, that I don't have to worry about low moves to clip somebody on the foot to end the round, which has always been lame to me anyway. So yeah, I took out the logic for ducking entirely, and of course for blocking low hits, I think that the characters still react and block low when a low hit does hit, if I can like find one. But honestly, it's not worth paying attention to at a game that's as fast-paced as I want this to be. Really, what what I think games like Marvel vs. Capcom, Mortal Kombat, and all them, the reason why I think that people do the whole ducking and blocking thing is because it's impossible to tell when a high, mid, and a low is at. Like Tekken got it perfect, but some of these other fighting games, it just add speed for the sake of speed, and it makes it so that when you play it, you're not able to intuitively recognize when a low hit is going to land. So their answer to that is just to make overhead moves that are slower than the other moves. Well, sure, it answers it, but it still doesn't really rectify why there's a person that's sitting and blocking in a corner like this to absorb everything and play safe. So at the end of the day, I can put in low moves, and I'll just create like an animation that has them dodging the low move like you see in martial arts films, but I don't care for the whole like ducking and blocking kind of thing. Most of the moves will be high and mid, and maybe some will be low as well. I was flirting with the idea of, while they're ducking, doing an attack while they're ducking. Currently you can't. While you're ducking, you just kind of are doing what you are doing, and nothing buffers while you're rolling. But it's technically a stance, and I can put in moves that they do while they're ducking and rolling. So there's that. And that'll be the low move game. The whole point is to keep the gameplay going fast, and if you're gonna duck a high, then this will very easily duck a high. This will very easily duck a high. And then if you wanted to attack while you're low, while somebody else is trying to hit with a high, then do it during that stance. I'll employ more logic, but that just means I have to make more animations, which is pretty time consuming because it's hard to animate, and apparently, based on the comments, I suck at it. So anyways, roll back and forward, we got that. If there's not enough power to throw a projectile, the character throws out a puff of sparks that do nothing. I already talked about that. So let me just go ahead and kill her right now, so we can get the round restarted here. Only allow for explosion reaction when a bar fills health. This way you can use it more. Okay, so let's say, she's on the ground now. She shouldn't be able to do the explosion reaction. Yeah, so you see she basically glows doing nothing, even if I'm attacking. But when she gets more of her meter thing, and then she gets knocked down. I think I used to have it where it would take a full meter. Now I think it's like half the meter. Yeah, so it takes like half of your meter when you do the explosion reaction thing, and that's when you're being attacked as well, you know. Oops, he got launched. Let me try this. Oops, wrong character again. I'm not an octopus, you guys, and I only have one brain, so it's hard to do this sometimes. So it wasn't close enough for her to do an explosion reaction. Okay, so anyways, you get it. I'm sure you get it. You guys aren't dumb. To do. Okay, so that is basically all of the things that I wanted to talk about with where the updates are in the game. Obviously, you can see she's not supposed to follow him on the ground like that. That looks ridiculous. Okay, the lookout system needs to be tweaked for that. And it's happening for her when she's idling as well. Yeah, not good. We don't want that. Okay, so I'll look into that. So obviously there are a few more lingering glitches going on, and there were a lot after I had to gut the code and pretty much redo everything. But it looks like everything, aside from a few glitches here and there, which are no real big problem because it's actually preferential that you look at your opponent. It's just, you know, if you're trying to strafe around them, it's kind of pointless because she's already scrolling to look at him. Let me see if I could just like kill her real quick. You got the KO screen. Animation issues on the ground there. You can cut out of that anytime that you want and then rematch. The new camera will animate in, and hopefully now we don't have her forcing a look. Yeah, so now everything works. Okay, everything has been reset properly. I'll figure out what's going on with her staring no matter what. I'm glad that I have this recorded because it'll actually make finding that glitch super easy. But as far as things I want to do from here, figure out how to get the UI control to support two controllers of the same type, because currently they work with a configuration of something like this, but if you have two controllers that read as X input, as far as how Unity recognizes controllers in their new input system, then the controls move the same buttons the same way, and that's really, really annoying. So I got to figure out how to circumvent that. I want to decide the winner at the end of the round based on the health when the timer ends, but as of now I really don't want to put that in because it's otherwise just going to slow down my ability to develop for the game. It's going to, you know, force a new round while I'm testing features, so that's kind of why I've held off on that, but that's basically what happens. Create new logic for low hits using the rolling state, which I already mentioned. And yeah, once I get everything ironed out and I do a few more playtests and I commit to how the combo system is, because as of now it combos into any move that you want to do no matter what button you're pressing, so you don't have to remember these strenuous long combos in a lot of other fighting games. You don't have to, you can, but the combos that you remember are going to be the ones that you make as opposed to ones that are hard programmed in. Bad side to that is that when you're doing square square, it's two completely different moves that really don't blend together especially well. Like this kind of, but you know, you get the character kind of going back to the idle stance after every move. See what I mean? And he doesn't really flow into another one. So either I make some logic to complement a move in some moves to make them string along to certain sub moves in the logic, or I just gut everything that I've done for the logic so that they can like just simply go between all the moves with each relevant body part depending on what you're pressing. Oh, and I think I should mention this. If you're pressing X a bunch, Like this is like 20 times, but eventually he'll stop if you release the button. But if you press X like 20 times and you hold on to the button, then he will continue to do the moves until you release the button. Or until the moves that you have inputted exhaust. So yeah, that's kind of the reason why I noticed that there was a glitch with the Unity input system, but it's really just me programming in more logic for the UI change of control scheme. But yeah, let me know what you guys think. As you can see, Kinselina, when she's on the ground, because the animations for things like getting hit and being on the ground and grabbing and things like that, because those are shared between the two characters, her arms are going through the stage, whereas with Kai and Saku, his arms stay right where they need to be. Oops, let me get you on the ground again. This is my brain not working, trying to use two controllers at once. As you can see, like his hands sit above the ground and his feet kind of rest on the ground, whereas hers are a little bit, out of place. I've got to work on getting her rig to match his a little bit more, so that these shared animations don't look so clunky when compared. Oh yeah, and while they're on the ground, you can also roll back and forward. So you can roll back, or you can roll forward, or you can like get up and end up going more forward. So I'll show you that. Let's back up from here. If you press forward, he'll get up like that. You clear a little bit of space. If you just press up, let me get her back here. If you just press up, he'll just get up in place. If you press down, he'll do the get up reaction, and that's shared with the R2 button. So if I press down, boom, he'll explode out. And oh, she should have. Wow, she's got like a pixel of health. And now he doesn't have a low move, so I can't hit her. And this only hits high, so even though it looks like it should hit low, it only hits high. So maybe I'll add a second hit window at the bottom. But yeah, now I don't actually have a way to hit her. So yeah, I guess I should definitely make those roll hits, because now they're definitely needed. Okay. What else? You can see that the camera doesn't stay in place. It kind of wobbles and gives a little bit of life to the cameraman. That's just like a noise filter on the camera, just to add a little bit of life and a little bit of, not excitement, but not so much static personality to the scene. There's still blurring that happens on the health bar and UI, because they are being done in world space, so that the characters can render on top of them, and they can render on top of the tree in the background and other things. The stars are no longer going through the health system. There's just a lot that's been gone on into this, and you guys, I'm sure, are used to it by now. I ramble a lot, but yeah, that's where the game is right now. I want to work on all those aforementioned things, and then eventually get in a new character once everything is super duper solid and fun and useful. Like this parry system at the moment, not useful. Just like this was not useful in the beginning. So yeah, just gotta figure out why this would be relevant and what happens if they were hit during that, and then maybe I'll keep it, maybe I won't. But we are coming up quick towards getting a new character in, and with the new character will come the defined art style. These were made really, really quick so that I can get something in the engine and get them fighting and see how they interact. Get the coding right to work for different character types that have different colors for their moves and other things. But now when I make the new character, I'm really going to focus on the design of it, make sure it's the quality that I want, make sure the accoutrements, like the pants and everything, they make sense. They don't look like blocky PS2 pants and things like that. Get the texturing right, things like that. So stay tuned. There's a lot, and some of you have been asking, oh, when's the game going to come out? A while, because I'm working full time. I've got a lot on my plate. A lot of the things that I do, this is not like my Unity fighting game part 2. This is my Unity fighting game part 1, which means I am still experimenting with things. I'm making sure that things are fun, and if I try something, I have to make sure it works, makes sense, is fluid, plays along with the rest of all these other components that I've now put in. So it's a lot of work, but once I finish the core mechanics, things will progress, I think, a lot faster. I'll be able to work on new level designs, new characters, and maybe even new systems, like, of course, a practice mode or a customization mode, a story mode. You know, I'll draw up some scenes and stuff like that to give you story a la Tekken 5, or I think it was Tekken 4. Maybe they both. No. Yeah, it was Tekken 4 that did that. Just like pictures that scroll through to give you a little bit of information on the story, which is, by the way, already composed. But yeah, I think I've talked enough about this. This was a big update because I've left you guys in the dark for about 3 months, something like that. So yeah, thanks for sticking around. And again, if you want to touch base on Patreon, you can. If not, totally fine. I'm making my own money in the meantime. It just means I can't work exclusively on this game. I've got my 40-hour-a-week job and stuff like that, so it makes it hard. But yeah. Oh, and you can see the health bar flashes red when they're low on health, and the black bar flashes when they are full on their damage meter, and it comes back. Yeah, I think that's everything. They have a new animation when they die, so they look dizzy, and then they fall back. So yeah, thanks for listening, and I'm done rambling. Bye.